This is World Update from London, and coming up later, NATO airstrikes in Libya have killed civilians as well as soldiers. That's according to the government in Tripoli. We'll hear from some of the alleged victims, including this 15-year-old girl.
There was no military camp. We were just living there. Why did they attack us? My mother died, and my two sisters.
Well, more from that set of interviews, and also we'll talk to one of those inside one of the rebel-held areas in western Libya. Headlines at the moment: the British Prime Minister is making a statement on the rioting in cities across England. He'll be addressing an emergency session of Parliament today. The European stock markets have bounced back again as volatile trading continues, and China has called a temporary halt to approval of a new high-speed railway project. That's after a fatal crash last month. This is the BBC, it's World Update. This is Dan Damon with World Update from London. The Murides are a Sufi Muslim movement. They're distinguished by a strong work ethic and entrepreneurship. This branch of Islam has its roots in the West African state of Senegal. Many of Senegal's elites and the powerful there are followers from the president to internationally renowned musician Youssou N'Dour. Mouridism is the youngest Sufi brotherhood in Senegal. Its numbers are growing. Followers often make their way to Europe, working as street hawkers, sending money home. Tim Judah reports from Senegal.
This is the Mouride holy city, Touba, about 4 hours drive east of Dakar, the capital of Senegal. I'm sitting on the ground in the market in Touba, surrounded by piles of second-hand tablecloths and clothes, with the ladies selling them. First of all, tell me, what's your name?
I'm Amidjan.
You've got family in Italy. Who have you got in Italy?
Salvador.
She says, my son.
How important is the money that he sends back to you to keep the family going?
She says, of course, it is very important. Look, I'm selling his second-hand clothes. His dad passed away last year, and he supports the whole family, me and his sisters and brothers.
Does his money go for you to buy these second-hand clothes, for you then to sell?
Yes. From time to time, I take some of the money to buy those second-hand clothes in order to have profit. I spend that money to buy food and all the stuff for the house.
Mourides are a growing and powerful Senegalese Sufi Muslim brotherhood that was founded by Amadou Bamba, a Senegalese mystic and religious leader at the end of the 19th century. Their holy city, Touba, grew up around the mosque that houses his mausoleum. Sufis believe in having a spiritual guide to show them the way to God. But with Mourides, these guides, or marabouts as they're known, also have an earthly role to play. They help out with money and business contacts. Traffic management consultant Mamour Sall was able to set up his company that way. He says it's no coincidence that so many businesses are Mouride run.
The work ethic is one of the key elements in Mouridism. Why? Because we believe that it can free the person to do what he or she has to do in life in a free way. And why do we find a lot of Mourides in small businesses? It's because they are entrepreneurs, and usually they start doing their own things at a very early age.
Mourides don't just run small companies, but some of Senegal's biggest too. Abdoulaye Wade, the president, is also a Mouride. So does the Brotherhood wield political power as well? Latia Mane is the political editor of L'Observateur, a newspaper in Dakar.
Les Mourides qui sont environ 5 millions. There are now about 5 million Mourides in the country who unthinkingly follow the indigo or edicts of the caliphs, so politicians who want votes are very attracted by Mouridism. Even if they are not Mourides, they pretend to be. I'm sure it's not about the Mouride values, it's about the votes.
Today there are anywhere between 3 and 5 million Mourides out of a Senegalese population of about 12 million. And the most famous of them all Youssou N'Dour, the global music star and probably best known Senegalese on the planet. This is his tribute to Amadou Bamba, the founder of Mouridism who died in 1927. N'Dour believes the philosophy of Mouridism should even play a role in debates about aid and Africa.
Je crois que le concept du mouridisme, c'est d'abord...
The principle of Mouridism is not to hold out your hand. It's a question of dignity. The true Mourid doesn't ask for help, but partnership. Mouridism is the spirit of partnership, of giving and taking. We should share this more to stop holding out our hands. It's too easy sometimes asking for aid. I think Africa has enough to eat, but it has much that needs to evolve. Africa doesn't need aid, it needs partnership, win-win.
That's Tim Judo reporting from Senegal, and you can hear more about the Mourid in Senegal and in Europe in Heart and Soul. You can find that on the BBC World Service website if you go to bbcnews.com. Volatility's continued on the world stock markets. European shares opened higher. The latest figures that I've got shows the FTSE 100 up 2% almost, 1.9%, 94 higher, 51.00 exactly, and a rise of getting off at 2.75% on the DAX in Frankfurt. Investors speculating, though, about the creditworthiness of the French government and the financial health of a major banking group, Societe Generale. Italy's Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi has also been talking about how planned budget cuts may be received badly by the public. Manuel Saragossa is in Rome. Talk about the kinds of budget cuts, then, that may be coming Italians' way.
Well, Dan, we're talking about cuts in pensions, cuts in social services, speeded up privatisations, but the most important thing, and what Giulio Tremonti, the finance minister here, is addressing Parliament about right now as we speak, is bringing forward this plan to balance the budget, so to make sure that government revenues and government expenses are equal. And the original plan for cutbacks here in Italy was to have that happen in about 4 years' time. Now they're looking at bringing that forward to 2013. So that means a lot of cutbacks, a lot of pain over the next few years in Italy.
It seems to be giving those who invest in equity markets some hope, though.
It's difficult to say. I mean, markets have been so volatile. You know, 1 minute they're up, and this plan in itself in Italy, for example, is not completely new. It was announced last week by Silvio Berlusconi. Today, we're hoping to get a bit more detail about what those measures are, whether there are going to be more cuts involved, higher cutbacks in spending, and the timeline for those cuts. But it really, you know, markets have been very volatile about it. We've seen markets absolutely plummeting here in Milan yesterday, and also in France. And so, you know, even if today is a good day on markets, who knows how they're going to see things tomorrow.
And this remarkable story that France may lose its good credit rating and that one of its banks may be in trouble. Very difficult to get behind that story, isn't it?
Well, I think the thing with Societe Generale, this French bank, is there are concerns that it's got a huge exposure to some of the other countries that have already been bailed out in the Eurozone, Ireland, Greece and Portugal. And there's just this whole wave of reassessment of the creditworthiness of the European region taking place at the moment. And it's hitting areas no one really anticipated. So we've had Ireland, Greece and Portugal. Spain was supposed to be the next soft spot in the debt crisis. Instead, it's been Italy, completely by surprise. It's taken a lot of people outside of financial markets by surprise. Belgium was another perceived weakling. Instead, markets are now doubting France and putting question marks over the credit rating of France. And this is all potentially disastrous for Europe, because the bailout fund that was set up to help out countries like Ireland, Greece, Portugal and Spain, it's just not big enough to come to the rescue of Italy, let alone France.
Manuela, thanks. That's Manuela Saragossa in Rome. And you would go dizzy trying to track the equities markets because overnight in Asia there were falls, 1% on the Hang Seng in Hong Kong. But as I say, on European markets now rises, getting on for 3% on some bourses. On currencies, a dollar down against the yen, further down, 76.5 yen for a dollar, and a euro gets $1.42.3. Gold continues its apparently inexorable rise at the moment. $1,787.15 an ounce for gold, and oil, September contract, New York, $83.34 a barrel. This is the BBC.